or both of those are working for NASA. But this is really one of the things that when we talk to former FBI special agents like James Galliano, you look at the number of potential connections, 8 in the last 2 years. And among them, you see William Neal McCaslin. He is an Air Force general that oversaw the Air Force lab that connects both the NASA Jet Propulsion Lab as well as the highly secretive work that they are doing in Los Alamos on a nuclear science, as well as McCaslin, by the way, also worked on secretive UAP or UFO technology in the past. He, of course, goes missing, doesn't take his phone or his glasses. So with this entire list of people, let's break down now, if we have that other wall, sort of where these people are working, right? So the NASA Jet Propulsion Labs are, as we mentioned, Michael David Hicks, Griemeyer, Maywald, and Monica Reza. Monica Reza, by the way, just goes hiking and disappears, vanishes. She was working on very highly classified things. She reported to General McCaslin. McCaslin, who oversees the Air Force Space Labs, connects NASA ultimately over to Los Alamos. And so when you talk about the number of connections that may or may not exist, and that's why the FBI and other agencies are digging in now to find it, you wonder what was any potential motive if there was a connection to these missing and deceased persons. Was it a foreign government? We saw so many individuals from China when Bill Malugin and I were out in California and Arizona. These individuals are coming over. Were they possibly in any way trying to get our information? And they cross, by the way, in many places where this takes place.
Many scientists have either gone missing or died under mysterious circumstances. This really started to make the news after the General McCaslin, vanished without a trace, a general who's connected to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. An Air Force base that's connected to UFOs, aliens, and even the paranormal. All these scientists that are connected to him, either directly or indirectly, are, again, vanishing. The most recent person that is said to have vanished that has possible connections to this general is this individual right here, Melissa Cassius. She was an administrative assistant at Los Alamos National Laboratory, and that's gonna be very important when it comes to another person that has gone missing. And this location is famous for developing nuclear weapons during the Manhattan Project. She vanished while on foot, and she left behind her wallet, phone, and keys. Where the connection may lie with McCaslin is that McCaslin was also a former research commander at Kirtland Air Force Base in New Mexico, which does work closely with Los Alamos National Laboratory. So it's very possible and not outside the realm of possibility that these two may have crossed paths in one way or another. But there has actually been an update since my last video that 2 more scientists that are tied to United States secrets may have met with mysterious ends. But I do want to go ahead and talk about this individual right here, Anthony Chavez, who, as quote-unquote coincidence, may have it was also an employee at Los Alamos National Laboratory that may have connections to General McCaslin and where Melissa Cassius was working. The article goes on to say that Chavez was an employee at Los Alamos National Laboratory until his retirement in 2017, vanished without a trace on May 4, 2025, just 7 weeks before a key assistant who would be Cassius. At the same lab disappeared, but here's what's even more bizarre. Just like McCaslin and just like Cassius, they both were last seen on foot. They both left behind personal items like their wallet's phone and keys. Chavez here was also last seen on foot, locked his car in the driveway, did not take his wallet, keys, or any other personal items. All his items were found inside his home, which also included his phone. He left his phone behind, so we have 3 scientists all connected to the same laboratory, vanishing on foot and not taking their phones. All taking place within the very same state, New Mexico. The whole phones being left behind is a clue that these people are being taken, so their location is not pinged. The article goes on to say that although friends consider him an avid hiker, investigators noted that Chavez was not dressed for a long outdoor walk. It's so wild how somebody, let alone 8 different, can go missing like this, vanish without a trace in this day and age where cameras are literally everywhere. We are living in 1984 surveillance. But I guess if an entire plane with 20 semiconductor scientists on board can go missing and nobody has any answers in this day and age, I guess anything's possible. The article goes on to say that the Daily Mail reached out to the Los Alamos lab on the nature of Chavez's work at the high-security nuclear lab, but they have not responded. Melissa Cassius is also believed to have security clearance for sensitive information at the same lab. Now, I left this out of yesterday's video when it came to Melissa Cassius. But this article goes on to say that the administrative assistant's personal and work phones were both found inside the Cassius home, wiped clean after someone performed a factory reset on them. So that begs the question when it comes to these other individuals like McCaslin and Chavez who also left their phones behind, were their phones also wiped clean? Former FBI Assistant Director Chris Wecker said that even employees who do not work directly on top-secret scientific research could be targeted by foreign spy agencies, or really anybody, as they often have access to the same information nuclear scientists do. But the connections don't stop there because we have another scientist this article is talking about, this time a NASA scientist. Frank Mywald, who they are saying may have passed away under mysterious circumstances. Mywald had been a prominent researcher at the space agency's Jet Propulsion Laboratory since 1999 and worked on multiple projects tied to advanced satellite technology. But here's where the connection may lie, right back to General McCaslin in the form of an individual named Monica Reza. Monica Reza was NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory's director of the Materials Processing Group. Now she disappeared just 4 days before Melissa Cassius while hiking with friends in California's Angels National Forest. General McCaslin oversaw Monica Reza's work creating a revolutionary new metal for missiles and rocket engines. This would be the Mondaloy metal, the nickel superalloy inside America's next-generation rocket engines. So yeah, it seems like all roads lead right back to General McCaslin, who also oversaw work at JPL. Now, when it came to NASA scientist Frank Mywald, his cause of death has never been made public and officials confirmed that an autopsy was never performed. And on top of this, despite Mywald being a JPL principal, an award given to scientists making outstanding individual contributions in their fields, NASA has never commented publicly on the scientist's passing away, and the only public record marking his passing was an obituary posted online. That's very weird. Another scientist whose work was heavily supported by NASA JPL was 67-year-old astrophysicist Carl Grillmayer. He passed away on February 16, 2026 after being shot on his front porch. He worked on the NEOWISE and NEOSURVEYOR infrared telescope projects that track asteroids, but used the same physics as military systems for tracking satellites and hypersonic missiles. And again, all roads lead right back to General William McCaslin because these dual-use infrared sensors fell under McCaslin's supervision while the general was in charge of the Air Force Research Lab space surveillance work. I also strongly suspected that General McCaslin was also linked to Nuno Loureiro, the MIT professor who was also shot in one way or another because Nuno Loureiro, he was heavy into plasma physics. And that's all General McCaslin pretty much spoke about on his X accounts. Was plasma how it could be used for anti-gravitational craft to even opening up portals? Something else I also found interesting, again, General McCaslin, he had an obsession when it came to plasma. A lot of these scientists are connected to plasma, and I had spoken about this article right here, how scientists are creating things called plasmoids, which for a lot of people they believe are living sentient plasma, but I also said in that video that these plasmoids could also be demons, fallen ones, entities, spirits under another name. We don't know 100% what these plasmoids are outside of what science is allowed to tell us. So I searched General McCaslin's X account for the word demon, and I found a couple interesting things, like for example, this X post on December 30th, Element 115, bending time and space. Swapping energy for space, limitations on nature, but he's also open to alien demon possibilities. Cause demons burn from UVC too. I find it interesting that a man of science like General McCaslin would definitely be open to the possibility of demons. I also find it interesting too that a game that I have spoken about before on this channel, Call of Duty, for its predictive programming, especially when it came to the capture of Majura, also had spoken about Element 115 in a demonic way. In Call of Duty, Element 115 is a mystical substance discovered by Group 935 that powers the bell, reanimates dead tissue, and triggers intense paranoia, memory loss, and hallucinations in those exposed to it. Is often treated as a demon or demonic force because it corrupts minds and breaks the laws of physics, and we have General McCaslin saying that Element 150, which is a real element, could possibly be demonic in nature. Another interesting post he made on the same day was this post right here where he linked a video, and it goes to this video that's titled High Voltage Physics. I'm not going to play the video because sometimes the scientist type like to give copyright strikes to those that are talking about their work in a more conspiratorial way. But he timestamps this certain part of the video right here, 48 minutes and 45 seconds in, and this individual, he is creating plasma inside a microwave, and you can see it almost turned into an orb. But General McCaslin here, he called it a plasma quote-unquote demonstration. Why put the quotes around demon now? It came out around May of 2020 that the United States Navy was using lasers to create plasma UFOs. This was one of the videos that came out where you can see a plasma orb coming out of this Navy ship. But again, General McCaslin, he oversaw dual-use infrared sensors. Reading this article from Forbes, which spoke about the U.S. Navy using lasers to create plasma, it goes on to say, the U.S. Navy has patented technology to create mid-air image to fool infrared and other sensors. This builds on many years of laser plasma research and offers a game-changing method of protecting aircraft from heat-seeking missiles. It may also provide a clue about the source of some recent UFO sightings by military aircraft. The article goes on to say that phantom aircraft that can move around at high speed and appear on thermal imagers may ring some bells. After months of debate, in April, the Navy officially released infrared videos of UFOs encountered by their pilots. Although the Pentagon prefers to call them unidentified aerial phenomena, the objects in the video appear to make sudden movements impossible for a physical aircraft, rotate midair, and zip along at phenomenal speeds, all maneuvers which would be easy to reproduce with a phantom projected image. It is unlikely the Pentagon would release videos of their own secret weapon in a bizarre double bluff, but other nations may have their own version. In the early 1990s, the Russians claimed that they could produce glowing quote-unquote plasmoids at high altitude using high-power microwave or laser beams. But again, research is showing that these plasmoids may be conscious and sentient, moving independently, and it just sounds like they're playing with demons. And it seems like this is what General McCaslin was understanding the deeper he went. Because if you think about it, there are a ton of connections running right back to JPL, Jet Propulsion Laboratory, and who was one of the fathers of JPL, but Jack Parsons, an apprentice of Alicia Crowley's work, who he L. Ron Hubbard, among others. They would go to a desert and they would practice Babylon working, summoning things over in early 1946, and then a year later there was an explosion of UFO sightings. Jack Parsons would talk to this lady, this goddess, this entity called Babylon, and he described her in his book as an elemental or air, a fire type with bronze red hair. Jack Parsons, deep into rocket science, I do find it to be an odd coincidence that this was the patch of the NROL-35, a classified United States spy satellite launch on December 13, 2014, which flew on the United Launch Alliance Atlas V. You can see a scarlet woman dressed in all red, and the NRO's official description calls it a 2014 goddess who glows with light from within, harnessing earth, wind, and fire. Jack Parsons described Babylon again, a scarlet woman of wind or fire type. Guess that's just all coincidence. All roads lead back to these ritualists and demons, but when it comes to these missing scientists, it definitely sounds like they were taken to work on something big. It may very well involve plasma and these plasmoids because around the same time as these scientists were going missing, not too long after, we're seeing all these